delay that goes on your Instagram. So it's like a 5 to 10 second delay or something like that.
Okay.
Um,
It's not actually
uh,
letting me go live.
okay,
Oh, wait, yeah, there's a delay. There we go. It's letting me go
there
live.
you go.
Perfect.
All right, great.
Welcome.
So yeah, welcome you, welcome you. I'm
Thank
just
you for
seeing.
having me.
Yeah, no worries. This is all new technology for me, so I'm just getting my bearings around what's what, and I'll just press a few buttons and keep the comments section open so that if there's any comments or questions that we can answer, they'll show up here.
Yeah, cool.
But in the meantime,
Mm.
I would like to introduce Lydia McCartney,
Yeah.
someone who I've known for just a few months.
Mhm.
Originally, she was a client of mine, and we had a session a few months ago. A beautiful journey, and I'm always
Profound.
completely humbled and warmed by the impact that it has. And then since then, we've become, yeah, friends,
Yeah.
colleagues, peers. I've been really inspired by her work, and especially her Instagram and her work. We echo a lot of core values and principles and goals and aspirations and visions for people living happy, joyful, embodied experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Thank
welcome, Lydia. It's so good to have you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm like really looking forward to this conversation. And ever since I had the session with you, I was just like really open to discussing it. And then the opportunity to collaborate professionally as well just felt like really aligned. And like you said, a lot of our work covers like similar themes and values. And I just think it's really important to have connections with human beings who are so like passionate about the same topics as you are and kind of passionate about bringing the work into the world that we are doing. So yeah, thank you for having me. It's great.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolute joy and pleasure. Thank you for being here and saying yes.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
We mentioned maybe just quickly, if it feels still alive for you,
Hmm.
to maybe like summarize or highlight what the bodywork session did for you, highlighted how did it sort of go for you?
Well, the session I had with you was amazing. I also appreciate that I was like in a really like good space when I entered the session with you. So I think I was able to just dive in kind of at the deep end a little bit in terms of like, turn up to the space, feel like really comfortable straight off the bat to step into like the erotic element of the massage in terms of like being naked and like really receiving like yeah just a touch from you. I thought I said to you, didn't I, like I come away from the session and felt like I'd made love to myself for 3 hours. And one of the things I kept laughing at after the session, and I kept saying to you when we were in the session, is like, this is the most unsexual thing I've ever done. And it was super interesting for me because you hear about like erotic massage or tantric massage or de-armoring or bodywork, whatever it might be. And when as soon as this element of even just like potential pleasure or potential sexuality is brought into it, it's like for so many people it's so contracting, which it can be, right? Like if there's a feeling of unsafety or experiences that we've been through, it's like if that is alive in the space, it for sure, is really relevant. And I just felt like it was the most beautiful experience to have a man in service to me for 3 hours. It's like it felt so unsexual because it felt all about me just receiving myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was like, some positions that we done in terms of like me like really leaning onto you. And at this point, I'm like fully naked and we're deep into the massage. And that moment will always stick with me because it's the first moment in my life where my whole body has relaxed onto a man.
Mm,
And I've just felt so safe and so held. So like that one session for me was huge in terms of like shifting imprints and creating safety around men, creating safety around and just like okayness with being naked and receiving. And it doesn't have to be this big sexual experience. And it was just on so many levels. It was so profound. So I loved the session with you. And I shared on social media about it, and ever since I've just been like a huge fan of your work. So yeah, it was great.
brilliant,
Yeah.
wonderfully summarized. And I just want to sort of like highlight a few of those things that you said about um, ultimately the safety,
Yeah.
and it being like fully welcome for you to be in that sensual, sexual, erotic experience, and it not being about a connection between you and I. It was
No.
purely about your connection with your body and your sensuality, and how that kind of I want to say sort of like it gets reframed or resignified as something pure, innocent,
Mm,
um, and okay. It's okay to be, naked or enjoying your sensuality in the presence of a witness.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think we might be able to use that as a segue to like, this theme of this conversation is going to be about um, eroticism,
Mm,
embodiment of like eros, let's say, but how important it is to have a feeling of safety first and foremost.
mm,
And that's what your work is predominantly structured upon as the foundation of all things, as it is
mm,
mine as well. So I'm interested to learn about like, maybe about your history and your journey to being in this role yourself. Was
mm.
there a period of time where you didn't feel safe in your body and your nervous system? And, tell me about this journey of, regulation and embodiment to bring you up to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, have I ever felt safe in my body? No, because I think just the default reason for that is we're not taught what that means. We're not mirrored that. We're not taught to explore that, right? Like even boundaries are just so edgy for people. And it's something that we have to be taught and we have to learn. And I think my journey really started like last year. I experienced like a sexual trauma in January. And that was like an absolute game changer for me in the sense of like there was a definitive feeling that I had. And then as soon as that happened, there was a definitive feeling I had after it. And on the back of that, and on the back of other experiences that I had in the last couple of years and dynamics that were going on, it's like I really realized I had no sense of safety in my body, in
Mhm.
myself, in my needs, in my boundaries, in any of the things that now keep me safe. Like I didn't even know what I needed to keep me safe. I didn't understand what that was. And I think especially after that violation happens, there's like a huge rupture, right, with like your own body. And there's a huge rupture that occurs with your sexuality, yourself, like your heart, your spirit. And I think through trauma work, I have done all of these layers, like being on my own journey of like the first thing that I just needed to do was like come into connection after what happened. And a lot of stuff I was doing was just like nervous system work. It wasn't named as this at the time, but now I reflect back on my journey. I'm like, okay, we've done this and we were doing this, doing a lot of nervous system work to just like resource and just like yeah, meet myself after that experience, you know? Like I remember going into therapy 2 days later, I was disassociated, I was still in an element of shock, I was anxious as hell, and I was like, "I'm just gonna meet myself in this space," and I sat, and for 2 hours, I just, like, explored how it felt to be me in my body at that moment, and I met myself at probably the rawest, most vulnerable that I could be. And that was like a real game changer for me because it was the first time I'd really saw myself and felt myself and witnessed myself and be witnessed by another so deeply vulnerable. So there was like nervous system work that was going on. There was obviously trauma work that was going on. And a natural part of the work that I was doing progressed me into sexuality work because I think for all of us, sexuality work is so important. But like for me, after that sexual violation, it was really important because it's like it also happened to my Yoni, right? It's like she deserves space to
Mm,
come into that. And what I now realize is so many of our patterns when it comes to intimacy and so many patterns when it comes to like sexuality are formed in our formative years. So when I was going back to kind of heal all of these things that I was noticing about myself, sexuality just kept coming up, life force, like working with it just kept coming up. And over the last 2 years, it has just literally been that progressive journey of just like following the breadcrumbs, doing the nervous
yeah,
system work, but also like not just around trauma, also around like noticing my stress patterns, how I responded to stress, the way that I operated, and really going on this journey to like repattern so much in my nervous system. And then sexuality is just being like the deepest, most profound layer out of all of that that I have stepped into. Hence why I now bring it into my work and I'm training next year to be a sexological body worker because I just think it's so powerful.
absolutely. Yeah, I feel like it's such a deep rabbit hole, like this self inquiry, and I find that a common denominator um, uh, of this work is sexuality and relationships, and how we relate to others is how we relate to ourselves, and sexuality is a big piece of that. And um, yeah, it's all interwoven so beautifully and
Yeah.
complex.
Yeah,
Um,
it's super complex. I think it's probably
mm,
like one of the most complex areas we can explore. But just to like when you said that then about everything being intertwined, it's super interesting for me because ever since I stepped into sexuality work and like pleasure practices and exploring increasing my capacity to be in my sexual energy, my capacity has also increased for grief. My capacity for my anger
mm,
has increased. My
mm,
capacity for connection has increased. The biggest thing that's super interesting is love from sexuality work that's come for me is like we always talk about it not being linked so much to sex. And for me, one of the biggest things sexuality has opened me up to is the energy of love.
mm,
And in the energy of love, also the energy of grief. And those two things have been a game changer in terms of my relationship with myself, but also my life and people around me. So everything is intertwined for sure.
mm, mm. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, it's a nervous system game to handle the capacity for
Yeah.
sensation, right?
Hmm.
And so sensation will either block sensation if it's too painful, and if we're blocking it from it's too painful, we're going to block the pleasure too, and unraveling and increasing the capacity for both ends of the spectrums.
Hmm.
But ultimately, that gives us so much more of an enriching and vivid life, like a front row seat, right to life, which feels a lot more satisfying to myself, but also what I hear from clients. That things just pop out a little bit more, because
Mm.
they're living it, they're feeling it, they're close to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Life's moving through them, yeah,
Mm.
more vividly. So this is you know a nice little segue then to asking you about your clients and your the people that you work with. what
Mm,
is a common pattern that you see? Where do people become disconnected or blocked? um, what are the common patterns that you see or blockages that you see, and what is a common solution or a good um, piece of advice to
mm,
tend to those common blocks?
mm. Yeah, nice question. And when we kind of touched base before, I'm mindful because I work with many areas with women to just like answer this in the perspective of like what we're talking about. So stepping into sexuality. So I think the most common things I actually see are disconnection from the pelvis as a whole. So when I do somatic work with people and I like bring them into their body, whether that's through breath work or somatic tools that we use, a lot of the time there will just kind of be like an absence of presence around the pelvis and an absence of awareness around the pelvis. So that can cause like, imbalances like physiologically in the body, but then also like a sense of being really ungrounded, a sense of being really disconnected. It can block energy flow in the body because the energy is not moving off. Another big thing I see is actually a lot of women not being able to orgasm. That's another big thing that I work with a lot in my client work. It will come into conversation. Either orgasm doesn't happen because there's a sense of like numbness, or maybe they don't really feel that aroused to get the orgasm. Um and a lack of sensitivity. And then, the ones that a lot of us like, the more generalized ones, I would say just like a real shame around it and a real like there's like a fear and then also like a complete misunderstanding of what it is, and not even misunderstanding, just like not an understanding because a lot of people were
Mm,
never taught it. So
mm,
these are like some really big themes that I see presenting in myself, and it's like what's really interesting about the lack of orgasm, for example, is like the amount, like how normalized that is was really one. And I experienced this last year. This was like one of my things that I had to work through in my own sexuality work, is almost like the normal, how normal it is for women to just be like, yeah, well, I don't know, I can't, and it just is what it is. And I think that's like really eye-opening to know, like, okay, this is probably something that women don't talk about a lot. It's because it's vulnerable and edgy to bring into space. It's vulnerable and edgy to name, but then when they do name it, it's like, oh, well, I don't know, it's just how it is. So that's been super interesting. And then I'm
mm,
sure you see like and hold space for all of those things, but also like, yeah, shame, the vulnerability. And then, there's complexities around it if there's trauma that's also wrapped up in things. And it's it's a nuanced topic.
mm,
And then my suggestions always, anytime pleasure is brought in or anytime sexuality comes in, it's like I give a lot of somatic practices. I obviously do a lot of somatic work. There might be nervous system stuff that I bring in, but anytime sexuality is brought into the room, I will say explore the concept of pleasure. Like that is my number one practice anytime. So whether it's a pleasure practice, whether it's a 14-day pleasure practice, a 28-day pleasure practice, whether it's just you journaling on what pleasure means, disentangling pleasure from sex. So like when you don't associate it with sex, what is pleasurable for you? And then another really big topic, because again, this is another thing that I see, and I do a lot of wheel of consent work with people, is people not knowing what they want and need. Massive, massive, massive one. So then when we
yeah.
start to think about like interactions, both intimate and not intimate, communication, showing up in authenticity, connection, it's like when we don't know what we want and we need, it's just like this ripple effect. So again,
Mm,
that can be
mm,
something that, and but it's a hard piece of work for people to do in session. It was hard for me to do it last year, and it's a hard piece of work for people to do because they're so dumbfounded. They're like, oh, I don't know, and I feel uncomfortable when you ask me that, and it's like, okay, but that's a big piece of the puzzle. So pleasure and understanding wants and needs, I would say, are two tools that have been a game changer for me. And my pleasure practice as well is like when I first stepped into it, And I always say this to clients is like, when I first stepped into a pleasure practice at the beginning of the year, I had no fucking clue what I was doing. There was resistance. I was pissed off.
Mm,
I
mm,
didn't keep up with it every day. I was just like, I don't understand what I'm meant to be doing. I felt so uninspired. But
mm,
all of that was part of the richness of me connecting to myself and understanding myself. And then as I got a little bit more into sexuality work and done another pleasure practice, I done a 28-day one. Oh my God, the differences. And then I could link it to like my cycle, and then all these different like feminine archetypes were coming up. And
mm.
some days it would be like wild, like pleasure practices. Someday it was just simply be like my feet up on the wall, taking some deep breaths. And I realized that like pleasure is all around us all of the time, and different things will bring in pleasure for me. And it was honestly in those 28 days, the things I learned about myself, how resourced I was, how connected to my body I was a fucking game changer. I think I done that off the back of either seeing you or before I was with you.
Yeah, it seems to be familiar. I think maybe off the back, because I remember seeing it on your Instagram.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah, that you were celebrating how monumental it
it
was
was
for you.
huge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
massive. And I just really like the fact that you and for your clients you explore what the concept of pleasure actually means,
yeah,
taking away like the pressure or the attachments or the associations for it to look a particular way or lead to orgasm, for example. It's like how much can you tune into that experience of pleasure? What does that taste like? What does it
yeah,
sound like? What does it
yeah,
move like? And and then exploring that you can start to identify, I like it when this happens. My
mm,
favorite thing is that texture, that smell, that touch, that taste. And then you start to know what it is that turns you on. And
yeah,
then when you know how to turn yourself on, you can communicate that to other people, and it just echoes.
yeah. And I can
There's
like instantly feel it. Sorry, there was a slight delay there. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Um, I can like also when I'm working with that energy, like I'm sure you will feel this, understanding how powerful it is, not even in like a sexual element, but in the sense of like when somebody awakens that energy and feels safe in it. Like I'll have sessions with clients where there's like this transmutation that goes on of energy. So like I can feel them activated into that energy, and then it will start to activate me. And I think there's something about exploring like sexual energy and taking away the like the of it being about of all the stigma and the contraction that we feel around it, and when we just move with it in the sense of like it's just energy, then the way that we start to like activate each other is unbelievable. And then how much more present we are with each other and attuned to each other we are, and able to like really resonate and be in this like richer connection is just so
mm,
powerful. And that's one of the things I love about like when I have a session with a woman and she activates into that, I'm like the biggest cheerleader, because the aliveness just watching a woman in that, and it can just simply be through breath, right? There's nothing like big going on. It can just be doing a breath and her body starts to open, and then the aliveness and the charge I'll feel in my body, and I'm like, that's powerful. Like no wonder it's
mm,
suppressed, because it's so powerful.
mhm. Yeah, it's infectious. Yeah, it's like a light switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like I think that you're also speaking to, the more you get in tune with your own internal landscape and how it feels, the more sensitive you can be in that being mirrored by other people, or
Yeah.
or you influencing or lighting up a room, let's say. There's this is more than just a physical thing. This is an energetic thing that can permeate into spaces, into dynamics, and
Yeah.
we can create like new cocktails and
Yeah.
mixtures of these like unique flavors of those, depending on who's in the dynamic. So beautiful.
And there's a
Um,
juiciness, right? There's like an
yeah.
aliveness, and like I think the way that we live and the disconnection and the level of stress that human beings have in their body and all of the ways that we can numb out, I think we lose sight of we are animals, like, and
Mm,
there's this life force, there's this fucking juiciness that flows through us, and we lose it. We're all like dry and touch starved and connection starved and on our phones and stressed out with to-do lists and mental loads, and it's just like we're
yeah.
on these hamster wheels. And I really think for me, like, pleasure is an anchor back into the most primal, like, fundamental feeling of what it means to be a human. And then for me, that just like really opens me up in like many spiritual ways to really
Mm,
feel like when you connect to life force, which essentially for me always feels very similar to sexual energy. It feels like the same thing for me. It's like it connects me to this wider feeling of life, of that energy that moves through us, that moves through nature, that moves through everything. And it's like, yeah, extremely powerful. And the more we talk, I'm just like, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's about sex, but it's like really not.
yeah, so much more. So much
Yeah.
more. It's yeah, it's life itself. It's
Mm.
life itself. Yeah, beautiful. So I want to talk to you a little bit about maybe giving some tips to anybody who's watching
Mm.
about like some basic embodiment practices. What can people do? Because life is busy and sometimes people just don't, well, they can't seem to find access to these practices because they haven't got time or they're
Mm.
distracted by screens and things like that. um, have you got any juicy tips for our listeners to yeah, try to incorporate more sensitivity into their lives and relationships?
Mm. So just some like really simple nervous system ones that people can do is the concept of slowing down slowly. So if you
Slowing
are
down slowly.
slowing down
Okay.
slowly, yeah, otherwise you get emotional whiplash. So if you're somebody who's very busy, if you're on the go all the time, if you has a busy day, or even if you're feeling like just quite stressed or anxious, people can say just, I don't know, meditate or just go home and rest, and that can be really jarring actually for the nervous system. So what you want to do is like slow down slowly. So it's a concept I give my clients where I say, okay, let's say you're like at like a level 8 stress. And imagine we're trying to bring it down in increments instead of going from like an 8 to a 3. It's like, what would it look like if you just slowed down by 5%? And this is a really
Mm,
good technique for people who nervous systems are more hyper aroused, so more like busy, go, go, go all the time. They really struggle with rest. We'll use that scale. So it might be for a week we just slow down by 5%. Then it might be the next week we slow down by 10%. And we work with this scale to start to help them slow down slowly so the nervous system can adjust, it can get used to it. And slowing down slowly could look for you like literally when you come in from work, instead of being a crazy person, like moving really fast, slow your body down. Slow your hand movements down. If you can do one thing at a time, it's different for parents, but it's like if you
mm,
can just focus on one thing at a time, like physically slowing the body down massively helps as well. If you go on a walk, slow your walk down, maybe don't listen to
great.
things,
Yeah.
like just really start to come into
Chew slower.
presence. Yeah.
Hmm.
Chew slower, speak slower, just like really consciously start to slow everything down. And like, for
That's
example, going on a walk and noticing, like, orienting to your external environment, it's like instead of listening to something all the time, it just is going to start to bring you into presence without it being too jarring for the nervous system. And then also little things that you can do, like techniques that I give clients if you're in work and you're feeling stressed about something, or I don't know, you're just feeling your feels, simply rubbing your hands together can be really good, especially because the female nervous system regulates more of oxytocin than dopamine. So the more oxytocin, the love hormone that you get in your body, especially if you are a female, the more you're going to feel more grounded in your nervous system. So just simply rubbing hands together,
Mhm.
go in the toilet and just taking a deep breath, or like just shaking it out if that feels good for you, can be really good. Rubbing your fingers together underneath the table can be a really good
Mm.
option. So I like to give people practices that they can almost fall into, because not
Yes.
everyone has the time and space to do 20 minutes. Not everybody can feel like they want to do 20 minutes. And I would say the other thing as well, that's really important for the nervous system, is for embodiment, is the moment it becomes another to-do list, if you're already feeling overwhelmed, if you're already feeling disconnected, you're going to find it really hard to maintain, because it's just another to-do for your nervous system. And if it hasn't got capacity, it's not going to prioritize it,
Aha.
which is why you'll start, fall off.
Yes.
So the small compound effect will add up when it comes to embodiment and it comes to somatics. And then obviously all of the other things, like just starting to bring awareness to your body. You don't have to do a big massive practice. You don't have to massively come inwards, but just checking in, even if it's like a color, a sensation, a visual, a word, like at the end of the day, what am I noticing? Or as you go throughout your day, like, what am I noticing? What are the textures? Or how is my body communicating to me today? And you don't have to make it mean anything. You don't have to do anything with it. It's just an awareness that there's this vessel with all of this wisdom and this language here, like communicating with you all the time. And then sexuality, a tip I would recommend is just like we said, journaling around like what pleasure it is, journaling around things that are reflected on things that you could do that feel pleasurable for you. And then just starting to orient yourself towards pleasure more and just bring that into your life. And when you notice that and when you actively bring that in, just take a moment to pause. What are you noticing? Let your nervous system receive that. And again, that's going to add up with the compound effect. And if you want to do a pleasure practice, one of the easiest things that you can do, again, starting with your hands, is just simply awaken your hands. So just feel sensation in your hands, rub your hands together. Even if you put like moisturizer on, everything's so fast and disconnected. Just slow it down, feel the touch, feel the sensation. And that can be a really nice gateway into just exploring, touch or pleasure.
Mhm.
Mm.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yes, I like the slowing down slowly,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just noticing more, just having more presence with what's happening in your
Yeah.
life rather than, yeah, I feel that lots of people want to cram as much as they possibly can into
Yeah.
every second of the day. So, be cooking and listening to a podcast and, watching TV or yeah, and just slowing things down to, doesn't it feel great uh, to I like washing up because it's like a hand bath for me.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? I really like washing up these days because it feels so luscious. I used to hate washing up, but now like I just love the warmth of my hands and
yeah.
the texture of the bubbles. And I think generally, we've become a lot more appreciative
Yeah.
and full of gratitude for having these senses and nature around us and the sound of the birds and like how does it feel to breathe fresh air and all those things. It's like, wow, I'm alive. And then
Mm,
naturally this like, tendency to enjoy the simple things and pleasure comes online a lot
yeah.
more easily. And I've found that, maybe it's a philosophy or something that I've found come true with communicating with other people on this path as well, is that, you know, some people will have a tendency to try subconsciously to avoid pain, and it's
Mm,
such or discomfort. But when we're attuned to this, it's like what rather than avoiding pain, it's like what's lighting me up instead. What's driving me towards something
mm,
in life, in in relationships, in situations. So
mm,
I love it how like this can these subtle simple practices can just rewire things on a systemic level.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And I think also what people don't understand, I think, is that, of course, we don't like to experience pain, but it's our capacity to be with pain that increases our capacity to be with pleasure. So it's the same with the love and the grief. It's like I have never felt as much love as I have felt until recently when I really done some like grief work. And it's like we don't want to be here, but when you know, like, wow, I can hold that pain and I can be okay. And then I can orient towards like pleasure or joy or happiness or presence. And I can feel the same level of depth of that if I allow myself. It's like it's powerful feeling that. It's powerful.
Yes,
So don't
absolutely,
block yourself from either.
totally. So much truth in that. Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to round off here. It was a late start, but I really appreciate your time and energy being here, Lydia. I just want to say that I'm really looking forward to working with you and having you feature on the training that's going to start in the new year.
Yeah,
So
same.
yeah, it's going to be some training called Full Body Alchemy presents the Embodied Awakening technique, and I'm going to be teaching all the things that I wish that I knew at the beginning of my
Mm,
bodywork journey. A lot of this nervous system regulation stuff, learning about trauma, what happens in the body, what happens in the in the nervous system, and how to regulate that. We're going to do some Taoist sexual alchemy with myself. I'm going to do some embodiment with yourself, Lydia, and yeah, all of this is going to be preparation for a bodywork deep dive for a week. So I'll be teaching people these techniques, people will be practicing on each other. And it's really, really potent in its own right. But then being in a group container, there's like this collective energy, and it is just, yeah, it's profound. So all this preparation will be very, very useful to go and have an amazing experience on that training.
mhm.
And then by the end of it, we'll be offering a business module as well. So after learning all of these things, that you'll be teaching your future clients the embodiment um, practices and the actual bodywork itself. We need to get your clients as well. So it's a complete package, and all this information about this course is on the website there. It's fullbodyalchemy.co.uk. So it's a very small cohort. I've only chosen to have 10 people on the course, and I've had 3 people sign up already. So it's actually, yeah, becoming full quite easily. So if anybody is interested in coming on, I would like to have a call with you and make sure that you're a suitable candidate, because it's going to be a real like deep and wonderful journey, and I want to have the right people on. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be epic, and I'm really glad to have Lydia on board as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're going to do a wonderful webinar feature in that course. So yeah, I can't wait for that. And you'll probably be doing it from Bali, won't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Lydia. Thanks anybody watching, and yeah, I'll see you for the next one. I'm doing some more on this series. The next webinar that I'm going to do is going to be with Michelle Clark, and we're going to be talking about business and marketing and how a lot of healers and light workers just can't make a lot of money because we have been so sort of generous and giving, and it leads to burnout and not um, being paid in proportion to what impact that we can have. So it's going to be a great conversation with Michelle. So that's coming up in 2 weeks. And yeah, it will be on the emails that I'll dish out when you've registered for the series. So all the information's there at fullbodyalchemy.co.uk/webinar series. So this concludes my first ever,
Well done.
and exactly 40 minutes. Look at that. Boom.
Boom. Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Good
All right.
live.
Yeah, nice one. Thank you once again. And yeah,
Yes.
I'll catch up with you soon, Lydia.
Yeah, speak soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.